Hi there, strikers. There's something uniquely disturbing about people vanishing into thin air. Read about these incredibly strange, unsolved cases. Although these disappearances span centuries, locations, age ranges, and circumstances, there's one common thread shared between them: a lack of closure. There are theories, speculations, and investigations, but never a decisive answer. On our incoming episode, I'm going to feature some of the cases of mysterious disappearances, of some missing that just disappear without any trace. The mysterious disappearance of Junko Furuta was a Japanese high school student who was abducted, raped, tortured and murdered in the late 1980s. Her murder case was called the Concrete Encased High School Girl Murder Case due to her body being discovered in a concrete drum. The abuse was mainly perpetrated by 4 teenage boys: Hiroshi Mano, Joe Ogura, Shinji Minato, and Yasushi Watanabe, over a period of 40 days from November 1988 to January 1989. Junko Furuta attended a high school in Misato, in Saitama Prefecture, Japan. She was a good-looking, active teenager who enjoyed a lot of attention, which made some people jealous. She did not smoke, did not drink alcohol, and did not do drugs, which was seen as very uncool in the eyes of more gangster-like teens. One of them, Hiroshi Mino, had a crush on her but not looking for a relationship. Junko Furuta turned him down. Hiroshi Mino was the bully in the school and involved with the new generations of the Yakuza. Nobody dared to oppose him. And Junko Furuta had the nerve to say no. On November 25, 1988, she was kidnapped by 4 teenage boys. One of them was Hiroshi Mano. The boys took Junko Furuta to the house owned by one of the kidnappers' parents in the Ayase district of Adaki, Tokyo. While in captivity, the kidnappers forced Junko Furuta to call her parents and tell them that she'd run away and is going to stay with a friend, but insist that she's not in danger. Not able to realize what was coming and too scared to remain non-compliant, Junko did exactly as she was told, ultimately forestalling a manhunt that would have otherwise followed her disappearance. Parents of Nobuharu Minato, in whose house Junko Furuta was kept, visited their son on a few occasions. Still, under a threat of increased violence against her, Junko was requested to pretend that she was a girlfriend of one of the boys. However, even when it became apparent that she was a captive in the house, the parents did nothing for fear of retaliation from Hiroshi Mano, who was known to have the Yakuza connections. During 44 days following her kidnapping, Junko Furuta was forced to withstand unspeakable suffering. What she went through before murder included: was humiliated by being kept naked most of the time, was raped every day in both the vagina and anus. More than 100 men are believed to have raped her. The captor with Yakuza connections has invited other Yakuza members to have a go at a 16-year-old. She's estimated to have gone through about 500 rapes. At one point, she was raped by 12 different men in one day. Endured physical beatings included hits with golf clubs and bashing of the face against the cement floor. The 100 men who are believed to have raped her had also reportedly enjoyed urinating on the girl, frequently, to turn her rapists on. She was forced to masturbate in front of them and their guests. She had various objects forced into her vagina and anus, including a bottle, an iron bar, scissors, roasting needles, grilled chicken skewers, etc. While she was only 1/4 through her ordeal, owing to ongoing beatings, Junko Furuta could not breathe through her nose due to the accumulation of blood in her cavities. Her traumatized internal organs refused to accept food and water, so when she tried to drink, she instantly vomited, which kept her more dehydrated. It also agitated the perpetrators, who punished her with more beating for soiling the carpet. At one point, when the attackers were resting after drinking, she tried to call the police but was caught and punished by having her feet set on fire with burning lighter fluid. Large bottles the perpetrators forced up her anus caused internal injuries and ugly bleeding. Severe leg burns and badly bruised muscles left her unable to walk after 20 days of her ordeal. She couldn't handle anything with her hands anymore because her bones were smashed with weights and her fingernails cracked. Since it was winter, she was also forced to sleep on a balcony, exposed to cold temperatures. After 30 days, Junko Furuta could not urinate properly due to damage to internal organs and vulva from the insertion of foreign objects and burns from cigarettes and lighters. Her hands and feet were damaged severely, and it took her over an hour to crawl downstairs to the bathroom. Her eardrums were also damaged, and her brain size was reduced. During 44 days, when she was repeatedly tortured, beaten, and raped, Junko Furuta begged her captors several times to just kill her and be done with it. They didn't grant her that favor. Instead, on January 4, 1989, they challenged her to a game of Mahjong solitaire. She won, and that pissed the boys off. So they treated her to a beating with an iron barbell and fire by setting her legs, arms, face, and stomach alight after pouring lighter fluid on them. Being already severely beaten, dehydrated, and malnourished, Junko Furuta fell into a shock and died the following day. The murderers stuffed the dead girl's body in a 55-gallon drum filled with concrete and disposed of it in Koto, Tokyo. Junko Furuta captors identified the Japanese court withheld the names of 4 main captors who kidnapped, tortured, raped and murdered Junko Furuta because they were juveniles. However, the journalists from the Shuken Bunshun magazine dug them out and published them stating that after what they did to Junko Furuta, they don't deserve anyone to uphold their human rights. Hiroshi Mano, 18-year-old at the time of the crime, changed his name to Hiroshi Yokoyama. Joe Ogura, 18 years old at the time of the crime, changed his name to Joe Kamisaku, Shinji Minato, 16-year-old at the time of the crime. Some sources refer to him as Nobuharu Minato. Yasushi Watanabe, 17-year-old at the time of the crime. All 4 perpetrators were caught and tried. However, because they were all underage when the crime was committed, they were tried as juveniles. Eventually, they faced sentences of adults, except that the court withheld their identities. Still, given the severity of their crimes, the sentences they were handed out were relatively low. By now, Each of them is already out of jail. 3 of the boys served less than 8 years. The leader has initially been sentenced to 17 years in prison, but after his appeal, Judge Ryuji Yanez bumped his sentence to 20 years instead of lowering his sentence. The same judge also increased the punishment for 2 bored boys who appealed. One didn't, so his sentence stayed as was. Either way, they're all in their late 30s and all out of jail. Joe Kamisaku, not his real name, released in August 1999, went back to prison in July 2004 for 7 years to beat a guy he thought was luring his girlfriend away from him. Because forensic examiners found sperm and pubic hair of other people on the corpse of Junko Furuta, few more names were linked to her torture and murder, including Koichi Ira and Tetsuo Nakamura. Junko Furuta's story in popular culture. The torture and murder of Junko Furuta sparked international outrage, and her case inspired several movies and a manga illustrated by Kamata Yuji. The most noteworthy film is the Joshiko Saikonguri to Dumsatsu Jinjaikan, aka Concrete Encased High School Girl Murder Case, released in 1995.